How does a world die? Not a city, not an empire, but an entire world order. 3,200 years ago, the glittering civilizations of the Bronze Age, powerful, wealthy, vanished from the earth in a storm of fire and blood. Within a single generation, almost every significant city in the eastern Mediterranean was destroyed. Whole civilizations fell, writing systems vanished, trade routes evaporated. Historian Robert Drews calls it one of history's most frightful turning points. It was a catastrophe on a scale the world would not see again until the fall of Rome. Ancient records speak of a mysterious enemy that came from the sea. The Egyptians called them the Sea Peoples. But were they the cause of this apocalypse? Or were they merely a symptom of a world already tearing itself apart? This is the story of the first great collapse, and a warning, echoing from the ruins of 1177 before Christ. Before the end, there was a golden age. The late Bronze Age was the first truly globalized world, a network of powerful, interconnected empires. At its heart was a club of great powers, the god-kings of New Kingdom Egypt, masters of gold and monumental architecture, the warrior kings of Mycenaean Greece, rich in heroic legend, and the Hittite Empire in Anatolia, pioneers of law and diplomacy. We know of their world because they wrote to each other constantly. In the 1880s, a peasant woman in Egypt stumbled upon a buried archive of over 300 clay tablets. They are known today as the Amarna letters, the diplomatic correspondence of the pharaohs. Written in Akkadian, the international language of the day, they reveal a world of intricate alliances, royal marriages, and the constant exchange of lavish gifts. To the King of Egypt, my brother, I and my country are well. May you and your country be well. This was a world built on trust and trade. Its lifeblood was bronze, a metal that required two rare ingredients, copper and tin, mined hundreds, sometimes thousands, of miles apart. This necessity bound their fates together. But this delicate web of interdependence, their greatest achievement, would also become their fatal flaw. A disruption anywhere in the system could send shockwaves everywhere. In Greece, the Mycenaeans ruled from mighty citadels like Mycenae and Pylos. Theirs was a palace-centered world, a command economy where every jar of olive oil, every spearhead, every worker, was tracked by a legion of scribes on clay tablets. Their wealth, drawn from agriculture and extensive sea trade, was legendary, filling their tombs with treasures of gold that stunned the world when they were rediscovered thousands of years later. To the east, in modern-day Turkey, the Hittite Empire rivaled even Egypt in power. But their true genius was not just in war, but in law and diplomacy. After the largest chariot battle in history at Kadesh, the Hittites and Egyptians did something unprecedented. They negotiated. The resulting Treaty of Kadesh is the world's first known international peace treaty, a promise of peace and brotherhood for all time, etched in stone and clay. It was the anchor of a stable world order, and at the crossroads of it all was Ugarit, a cosmopolitan trading hub, a melting pot where languages, goods, and ideas from across the known world were exchanged. In its markets, you could find copper from Cyprus, ivory from Egypt, pottery from Greece, and timber from the mountains of Lebanon. Ugarit was the vibrant heart of this globalized age, a city made rich by connection. It would also be one of the first to burn. Then, the world began to break. The collapse was not a single event. It was, as archaeologist Cline describes it, a perfect storm of calamities. The first blow came from the sky. Scientific evidence from ancient pollen, lake beds, and stalagmites tells a clear story. Around 1250 before Christ, the climate shifted. A severe, centuries-long drought descended upon the Mediterranean. Rains failed, harvests withered. The great agricultural engines that fed the palaces began to sputter and die. Famine, the ancient enemy of civilization, stalked the land. The second blow came from the earth itself. The region is a web of tectonic fault lines. Evidence suggests the end of the Bronze Age was rocked by earthquake storms, a series of major seismic events that struck city after city, toppling fortifications and destroying infrastructure. We can still hear the voices of the dying. From the ruins of Ugarit, a letter from the king to the Pharaoh of Egypt, a desperate plea for aid. In the land of Ugarit there is a severe hunger. May my lord save the land, and may the king give grain to save my life and to save the citizens of the land of Ugarit. The famine was only the beginning. Soon, a new terror appeared on the horizon. In the final frantic days of Ugarit, a flurry of letters was exchanged, messages of pure desperation. They were found, centuries later, still in the kiln where they were being fired when the city fell, a snapshot of the apocalypse. In one, the last king of Ugarit, Amurapi, writes to the king of Alashia, or Cyprus, "My father, behold, the enemy's ships came, my cities were burned, and they did evil things in my country. Does not my father know that all my troops and chariots are in the land of Hatti, and all my ships are in the land of Lucca? Thus, the country is abandoned to itself." The plea from Ugarit reveals a horrifying truth. The alliances that had guaranteed peace and prosperity were now a death sentence. The king's armies were abroad, protecting his master's empire, while his own kingdom burned. The globalized world was collapsing into terrified isolation. Only one of the great powers would survive to tell the tale: Egypt. On the walls of his mortuary temple, the pharaoh Ramesses III carved an epic story in stone, his victory over a mysterious coalition of invaders who had left a trail of destruction across the sea and land. His scribes gave them a name that would echo through history: the Sea Peoples. The foreign countries made a conspiracy in their islands. All at once the lands were removed and scattered in the fray. No land could stand before their arms. They were coming forward toward Egypt, while the flame was prepared before them. Ramesses lists the tribes of this confederation: the Peleset, the Jekka, the Shekelesh, the Denyen, and the Weshesh. Elsewhere, he names another, the Shurden. But who were they? Where did they come from? The words of kings and pharaohs are one thing, but the story is also written in the earth itself. Across 1,000 kilometers, from Greece to Syria, archaeologists find the same scar: a thick, black layer of ash and destruction. At Hattusa, the Hittite capital, the ruins tell of a fire so fierce it melted brick and fused stone. But here, the mystery deepens. Ramesses's grand inscription lists the city of Carchemish as one of the places wasted by the invaders. Yet archaeologists there find no fire, no destruction. The city survives, even thrives. The pharaoh's account, our main source, is not pure history. It is propaganda. He is telling a story of a single monstrous enemy that only he could defeat. The truth, buried in the rubble of other cities, was far more complex. When the fires died down, silence fell. The world that emerged was smaller, poorer, and darker. In Greece, the art of writing was lost for 400 years. The grand palaces were abandoned, their memory fading into the myths of a heroic age. International trade dwindled to a trickle. The population plummeted. For much of the region, it was the beginning of a dark age. Humanity had been reset. But the central question remains: who or what was truly responsible? Who were the Sea Peoples? For decades, the answer seemed simple. They were an invading horde, a barbarian tsunami that smashed the civilized world just as Ramesses III described. But a closer look at the evidence reveals a more complicated picture. Is this an army, or a people on the move? A mass migration of refugees, displaced by the drought and famine that were strangling their own homelands, searching desperately for a new place to live. 3,200 years later, we live in our own globalized world. Our palaces are skyscrapers, our trade routes are fiber optic cables, our chariots are supersonic jets. We are more connected, more complex, and more interdependent than the kings of the Bronze Age could have ever imagined. In a complex system such as our world today, this is all it might take for the overall system to become destabilized, leading to a collapse. The parallels between events in our modern world and what happened during the Bronze Age collapse serve as something of a warning for us today. The story of 1177 before Christ is more than a mystery from the ancient past. It is a ghost story, a cautionary tale written in ash and bone. It reminds us that no civilization, no matter how powerful or advanced, is permanent, and that the line between a golden age and a dark one can be terrifyingly thin.